Are you looking for a natural and effective way to boost your energy, reduce stress, and increase metabolism, and improve your overall well being? Well, look no further than cold exposure. In this video, we'll explore the benefits of cold exposure and how it can positively impact your body and mind. From increased levels of norepinephrine and dopamine to improved blood flow and heart health, learn how cold exposure can transform your life. When talking about cold exposure, I will be referring to cold plunges and cold showers. First, I would like to talk about body temperature, which changes from throughout the day. It is lowest 2 hours before you wake up and starts rising after you start waking up, all the way to the afternoon when it peaks and then it starts dropping again. It's important for a good quality sleep that your body temperature drops about 1 to 2 degrees before going to sleep. For example, let's say that you wake up at 6 a.m. Well, your day is going to look something like this. Here it says 6 a.m. Your body temperature is kind of low when you wake up, then it starts rising until the afternoon, about the afternoon, and then it starts dropping after it peaks. And at 4 p.m., 2 hours before you wake up, it will hit its lowest point, and then it will start rising again, and thus you wake up again at 6 p.m. Because of this, you're going to notice that the difficulty of taking a cold shower will actually differ depending on when you are having that shower throughout the day. Now remember this information because this will be important later when talking about when you should take a cold shower. Now what happens when we get into cold water? Well, everyone is going to experience a shortness of breath or rapid breathing, like then you will have to, well, I would suggest you that you try to calm yourself and breathe deeply, like this will help you endure the cold water. Then, when you get into cold water, you get an increase in your norepinephrine and epinephrine, or they are also called noradrenaline or adrenaline, they are the same thing. These chemicals increase levels of agitation, focus, and our desire to move. These are the same molecules that are released when we are stressed. So this is a very stressful situation for our body getting into cold water. Thus, by doing a deliberate cold exposure, you are able to train your mind to maintain mental clarity and calmness while being under a stressful situation. So this is a terrific and natural way to build mental resilience by doing something that is stressful and remaining calm knowing that nothing bad is going to happen. We will discuss how to further increase your mental toughness and resilience, but first I would like to talk about another chemical that is released alongside epinephrine and norepinephrine when getting into cold water, which is dopamine. Dopamine is responsible for motivation, reward, and pursuit. Now, when you are depressed, of course, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but essentially there's a lack of norepinephrine and dopamine in your body. And as you already know, going into a cold shower or a cold plunge will raise your levels of norepinephrine, but it will raise it with actually 530%, and it raises dopamine with 250%. So it is a natural pill with no side effects. So cold exposure increases mood by a significant amount, you get a lot more energy, the blood flow is a lot better, and heart rate is going down. People who do regular cold showers, their heart rate goes down to about 20 to 30 beats a minute. This remains kind of constant throughout the day, and this means that they will get lower levels of stress and higher levels of energy. Now, as we discussed earlier, going to the cold shower is a stressful exercise. By doing it deliberately, we can train our minds to withstand stressful situations, and not only stressful situations under the cold water, but also stressful situations in real life, in life in general. For example, when you get an unexpected call or something doesn't go the way that you expected it to go. One way to build resilience and mental toughness is to increase the duration or decrease the temperature of the water. But of course, this is limited. You can't just increase the duration of your shower forever. You can't just stay in the shower for 1 hour. You have other things to do, and it is not healthy also. And you get to a point where you cannot further decrease the temperature of the water. So there is also a different method to build this mental resilience, and that is by jumping over walls and counting walls. Walls are the sensation that you do not want to do this, that you want to get out of here at any cost and get into a warm place. Now, every time you overcome this sensation, you jump over this mental wall. For example, a wall could be that even before you get into a shower, there could be a wall. Just standing in front of the cold water, thinking about how uncomfortable that it is going to be. But you get in spite of those thoughts, that is actually jumping over a wall. So then you sit there in the cold water, and then suddenly you might even sit there for some time comfortably, and then all sorts of thoughts and sensations come that you need to get out. This is very uncomfortable, but you stay in there even though you are having those thoughts. That's jumping over another wall. So you can count how many walls you have jumped over, but I would also recommend setting a deliberate number of walls that you would like to jump over before you get into a cold shower. Now, some days just getting into the shower could mean jumping over the wall. Some days that it wouldn't count as jumping over a wall, just getting into the shower. But I would recommend setting a designated number of walls that you would like to jump over in that cold shower or cold plunge. Now, as I already mentioned, another thing that you could do while in the cold shower is try to calm yourself. You can do this by, for example, double inhale and long exhale, something like, or just normal deep breaths. Now, interestingly, cold exposure can actually increase and help metabolism by converting white fat cells, which are the fat cells, generally speaking and overall speaking, are the fat cells that you want less of in your body. And it turns these white fat cells into brown fat cells, and these are the ones that you want more of in your body. Now, if your goal with cold exposure is to lose weight or increase your metabolism, it is recommended that after you take your cold plunge or cold shower, you reach the point of shivering. So instead of just running out to the cold shower and getting a warm blanket or something, you can just stand there for a minute or two and shiver so that you increase those benefits of increased metabolism. Now, how cold should the water be? Well, I say that it should be cold enough that it is uncomfortable to stay in, and cold enough that it is safe to stay in it. Now, of course, you have to be very careful because getting into very cold water without any experience beforehand with cold exposure can actually cause heart attacks and other serious issues. So be careful with that. And how long should your cold exposure be? Well, if you haven't really done any cold exposure before, I would suggest starting out with doing about 1 to 3 minutes of cold exposure. And then if you want to raise the duration, you can do it. Just do whatever feels right to do. If you feel like you can withstand more in the cold water, then stay in there for more time. Now, one last thing before we end. If you remember back to the beginning of the video, we discussed that our body temperature changes throughout the day, and it is highly beneficial that in order to get a good quality of sleep, that your body temperature drops 1 to 2 degrees before actually falling to sleep. Now, cold exposure can actually increase your body temperature, and if you actually think about it, the same thing happens with thermostats. For example, if you put a bag of ice to a thermostat, it will say that, okay, the room is really cold, I need to increase the temperature. The same things happen when we get cold water on ourselves. Our body thinks that, okay, it's very cold outside and we need to raise our body temperature. So it is beneficial for our body that it goes down, our body temperature goes down with about 1 to 2 degrees before we fall asleep. So cold exposure can actually disrupt our sleep if we take that shower or go into that cold plunge close to going to sleep. So I would suggest that you take your cold exposure earlier in the day opposed to later in the day. Now, if you have watched all the way to the end of the video, I have a challenge for you. If you actually want to see the benefits of cold exposure, then within 24 hours of watching this video, take a cold shower. Your mind is probably already thinking of all the possible excuses, but oh, I'm so afraid of the cold, I cannot stand the cold, or I have never taken a cold shower before. But these are all excuses. Your mind made these up. There is nothing objectively stopping you from actually having a cold shower. It's only in your mind. You are the one who put up these limits. So take a cold shower in 24 hours. Goodbye.